Welcome back to Rick and Elaine Discuss the Bible, and in particular, the book of Job. How are you, Elaine Ray Clark?
I'm absolutely fine, perfect, wonderful. All's well in my little garden today.
Yes, and it's a beautiful morning. It's still morning right now for you, for 4 more minutes.
Oh, is it? Right, okay.
And then you're gonna change times this coming Saturday, right?
Yep. So I'll be then 6 hours ahead of you instead of five.
Yes. Yes.
So
So
if there's anything that happens first, it'll start here and then you'll catch it 5 or 6 hours later. But normally everything starts in America first, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
We're
The
we're
good,
the
the bad,
best.
and the ugly.
We're number one. We're number one. If you didn't know that. So as you guys obviously know, we did not have our study last week because I traveled to Fort Worth, Texas for a blade show for my business. It was very prosperous. I'm very thankful for what that meant for my business and what's coming. So that's awesome. But while I was there, I had the opportunity to stay with my nutritionist. She's a holistic life coach, Marchesta Taylor, and her husband Kyle. They were nice enough to put me up for an evening, and we got to spend some time. Her Patreon page is going to be coming out pretty soon. I'm trying to help her launch that. She has amazing information. I've lost over 112 pounds working with her.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm half the man I used to be, as they say.
I'm melting.
And so I'm helping her get her Patreon launched so that people can get access to her content. It's very, very helpful. And then Eric and Karen Auger put me up down closer to the venue in Fort Worth. I got to spend some wonderful. I always enjoy my time with Eric and Karen.
And
They're
I got it was that
people.
was that Karen,
Yes, you.
and I
I
got to
introduced
speak
you
to
to
her.
Karen
Yeah,
over our Zoom call, and
beautiful lady,
yeah, she's a wonderful, wonderful lady,
a
and
gentle soul.
I'm gonna have her on. I'm getting ready to interview her. In particular, she works at a pregnancy center and has for a very long time. They're about to have their 30th anniversary, and her ministry has grown. She deals with women that are pre and post abortion, and she's working really hard for to try to prevent these abortions. And in doing so, her ministry has kind of grown, and she's had some people who are elderly that have come in to speak with her because they had abortions decades ago and are
Yeah,
still racked in guilt and forgiveness.
suffering.
And the churches that they're attending don't really have, in her opinion, the necessary resources. Even though they're there, they haven't really tackled this. And so
Yeah.
she's trying to help these churches get educated to be able to learn and help people within their congregations over these things, which I think is wonderful.
And
And
sometimes I don't think they realize that they're actually just putting a plaster. I know we can say God is love, God forgives you, but sometimes you have to get really down into the root of the boil, so to speak, to pluck that root out and get it out. And sometimes it's incredibly painful, but afterwards it heals to a place where it doesn't hurt anymore. You can just
right.
use that understanding and then pass it on to somebody else who's suffering the same thing.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And that's definitely for her, she's recognized that, and so she's begun. She actually, and she'll talk about it in her interview, but she had a luncheon for pastors in her area, and over 41 showed up, and she shared a 2-hour presentation on this
It's
material and
wonderful.
the things that they can
That's
do to help counsel
that's
before,
wonderful.
during, after, decades after, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's hard. This is a tough subject. I understand
Yeah.
that. So
I
anyway,
mean,
so that's
especially
why
when
we
they
didn't
don't
do the study
discourage.
because I was gone.
Well, exactly. Again, they don't discourage it because sadly, a lot of these aborted babies and all their bits and pieces are used for cosmetics and stuff like that. The pharmaceutical companies
It's
want
that's
them.
just absolutely
And
appalling. I can't believe that.
yes, it is. And this is the whole thing. If people didn't sort of, I often wonder if we had a glass tummy, whether you would readily have an abortion or whether you'd see it as a little thing that is actually living in you. I remember reading once it was a diary of a fetus, and
Mm.
it sort of went that today my mum and dad conceived me, but they don't know, and it sort of gradually, I'm as big as a plum now, and I'm as big as this, and it said, my mum and dad are sort of getting ready to, do the nursery out and stuff like that, and this is the perceptive of a baby, and then it says, today my mother killed me, and
Mm.
that was the end of the diary. But it's looking at it from the baby's point of view that they were getting excited about seeing their mum and dad. And again, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that, I'm not wanting to heap sort of like sadness and pain on people, but again, these are the things that people go through. They think about these things afterwards, and this is where people like Karen come in and not only sort of give them sympathy or empathy, but give them that hearing ear, give them that ability to cry it out, to talk it out,
Yes.
bring God into the equation. Because, again, we know that God forgives everything. If you go to God with a pure heart, he forgives everything. But sadly, we live with consequences.
We do. And
We live
Karen
with
really
consequences.
Karen gets down to the nuts and bolts of this thing.
Yes.
She talks about the taking of innocent life in our world is called murder, and that is a one of God's 10 commandments that he gave to Israel, but also that stand the test of time throughout all history for
Yeah.
humanity. It's better not to kill one another,
Yeah.
take innocent life, and that's where she hones in on that, and she uses the term murder in regard to abortion, which I think is accurate. And
It is, but I suppose again, it's saying it like it is. I think it's for those that are contemplating abortion to say that, but it's those that have had the abortions, and then you come along and say that is sort of like, again, it's treading this very fine line of not wanting those that are contemplating abortion, but to look at what really could happen in the future afterwards, but also having that sort of like empathy and sympathy for those that have, and not to sort of rack guilt upon them by saying murder.
Well,
it's
but
that
she's
fine.
not. You obviously know that
No,
somebody
I
like
understand
Karen
what
would
you're
have
saying. I think
diplomacy
what I'm
and
I think what I'm doing now is saying it for those that might be listening. That's
yeah, of
all.
course.
You know.
Oh no, no, absolutely, and I get that too. But there's also times when you have to face hard truth, and this
Oh, there
is
are.
and I have to like I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and he's a widower and he wants to meet a woman, and he's talking to me about that. He's been a widower for almost a year now, and he's had a lot of grief, and now he wants to kind of get back into the game of meeting somebody. He's lonely and he wants to meet somebody and have a companion and possible marriage. And he said, but she can't have been married before. And I was like, okay. And I was like, even if they're a widow? And he's like, no, no, that's different. I was like, okay. He said, I don't want to commit a grave sin. And I was like, oh, I was like, okay. I said, well, I'll tell you like this. I said, I am divorced and remarried, and um, I had reasons for my divorce because of infidelity on the other party. But the scripture is pretty clear that if I go and I remarry with somebody else, then my partner has made me an adulterer. That's the way that it would say. And I said, so I'm an adulterer. So my question to you is, does God forgive adultery?
Yes.
And if he does he remember it or does he remember it no more? I'm not saying I
Exactly.
get out of jail free card
No.
because I was an adulterer, but through my relationship with the Lord and through the fact that I didn't want to be lonely and I felt like I had just cause, but even without, I can commit sin and I can be forgiven of those things as well. But that doesn't mean I just go on sinning, God forbid, as Paul would say. That's not the point, okay? So anyway, the same goes with those who have committed abortion or they've stolen a car or whatever. There are things that we break against God's law every single day. And yes, that is a horrific thought to murder a baby. I get it, but we also have to call it what it is. And I think that Karen is much better at this than me, obviously.
And I think that's the thing. I mean, we're just sort of like talking about it here, but it was only because we were talking about it here rather than in a situation where Karen's sitting down and it's over a coffee and there's
A tremendous
emotions
amount of
being poured out.
love and
So
empathy
again,
and sympathy. Yeah.
exactly. So I just in case somebody came into the conversation, I just wanted to sort of temper it because it wasn't really a counselling session
That's right.
for
That's right. Yeah. So just so you all
yes.
understand, I was telling you about my experience and what Karen's going to be
Yes.
talking about on my program. So you'll get to hear it direct from her. I won't say the horse's mouth because she's not a horse. She's a beautiful woman. All right.
Ah,
And Eric
yeah,
Auger is a wonderful man, and I thank them for letting me stay with them. It was so wonderful. And we had a church service in their home. They have a home church that Sunday
that's
morning.
wonderful.
They asked me to lead it, which was such a blessing, and I was able to talk
Oh,
about things that I was working on and getting ready for the Berean conference that's coming up next month, or actually in May 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So I got to test out some of my material with them, and that was very awesome. And I got to meet a lot of new people there, and I found out something, Elaine, while I was there. Several of them that were attending, and there were 15 people there, said, "Oh, we've been keeping up with your study with you and Elaine." And I was
wow.
like, where are the comments? Like,
Yeah.
comment, please. I was like, engage. And they're like, oh, we just don't want. I was like, please, like, we
Yeah.
love that. It's a very encouraging thing. I said, so comment
And
or
it's a
question or
connecting thing as
whatever.
well, Rick.
Yeah,
It's a
it
connecting
is.
thing.
Yeah, and we have this really cool little healthy community going on here in Patreon, and I want to keep that up. So, all right, so let's go ahead and get into this, okay? I want to
I
read the
mean, just one little
comments.
thing. Like, I mean, as I say, this leads into it. Like we were saying just before we started recording, that there's an awful lot of sites out there that will tell you why things are happening. What's going on in the world, geopolitics, and what one country are doing and another country are doing, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, if it does get bad, I think what we're doing here by going through Job is recognizing that this is where we start to draw nearer to God and start
Yes.
to open up to him and tell him what we're feeling, tell him what the problems are, tell him and this is the connection. So the more you open up, the more connected you are, the greater the relationship that you can turn to him in times of trouble. And I think this is the thing. I know that things are getting bad, but I don't particularly want to know too much about what's going on. I would rather know about what we're talking about, how we can
Yes.
cope with situations, how people might sort of come up against us. But the thing is, we've got to really cling to God in these times because we really genuinely don't know what's going to happen because it's pretty grim out there.
Yes, it is, and I agree. And so, yeah, this study for me personally has been that I've been learning these things about being honest and in my suffering and talking to God and how the systems of men will close me down. And they have a lot of times they've tried,
Yeah.
but that's not what is expected. What's expected is for us to push through and to endure and to that hope gets produced. And so, anyway, so thanks everybody who put up with us not being here for a week.
Have we got any comments?
Yes, I'm getting ready to read them.
Oh,
Yeah,
excellent.
so
Because
this
I don't get
comes,
to hear them, you see.
that's right. And I was too busy to even remotely mess with my phone. So this comes from Tony Driver. Hello, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
She says, my thoughts on our study this week are this. Searching honestly is better than defending falsely. Yes, that's good. I can't share details. Now, she gets pretty somewhat personal, so everybody listen to this. I can't share details, but I can say this. There was a time in my life when I honestly thought my story was going to turn into something you'd see in a Lifetime movie. In America, Lifetime has very overly dramatic type films.
Oh,
Um,
right. We don't have that in England.
yeah, you guys don't have any overly dramatic things in England? I doubt that.
This,
I know Lifetime.
no, no, we don't have any of that really. I mean, it's a little bit too real, I think, our things.
You guys really get down to the nitty gritty over there. All
Well,
right,
yeah, we
so
do, especially Guy Ritchie films.
yeah, exactly. It was a very dark and frightening time, and I didn't know what the future was going to look like. Everything seemed to be moving in a direction that I never planned. Looking back, what I learned most from that season was not to rely on man, but to put my trust fully in the Lord. When everything else felt uncertain, He was the only place I could stand.
100%. That's why the Bible tells us to cling to him.
Yeah,
Cling, glued, you know. And this is the thing.
absolutely.
And unless you've got a good relationship, it's going to sort of, when the times get tough, you're going to sink. And that's why we need each other. That's why we need the comments, people to comment, to share those things so we can say, well, actually, Lord, it's not just me. We can pray for one another. We can sort of share each other's sort of like things that have happened to us in the past, situations and circumstances. And from that, it's strange, really, like we said before, that when somebody tells you the problems that they're going through, it's almost like it encourages you because together you pool that love for each other and for
Mhm.
God, and you become more solidified. And that's the whole thing. If we all pretend everything's fine, everything's hunky-dory and dandy, well, actually, you're going to find it a lot harder to swim. It's going to be a lot
Yes,
harder to swim against the tide when things do start to go belly up.
that's right. That's right. Here comes from Tracy Ferguson. Hello, Tracy.
Hi, Tracy. How's the lumberjack? I'm a lumberjack and I'm
Yeah.
okay.
That's a Monty Python reference.
It is. I'm a lumberjack and I'm all right. I sleep all day and I work all night.
He says, and I dress in women's clothing just like my dear papa.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's Monty Python. Oh, we're okay.
But I tell you what, they knew something before we did.
Here we go. Wow, Rick and Elaine, this was pretty powerful for me as I was listening to Elaine talk about the tree of life, and then she says the tree of life is God. I never really considered that. before I got a warm feeling running through my body. And I was so excited, I almost cried. And I don't know
Oh,
why I never heard it
Tracy.
or felt it before, but it was powerful, very powerful for me. In 2007, when I was incarcerated, I got sentenced to 5 years for aggravated assault. And after I finally got where I was going to spend my time, I hit the floor on my knees and begged God to come into my
Bless
life.
you, Tracy.
Yeah, and show me where all my thought processes were and where all my thinking had gone wrong. Where did where did everything start happening? The Holy Spirit came to me 4 times in 4 different nights. I call it the Scrooge effect, and he took me back and showed
Yes.
me where my mind was shaped at what age and I was and how I was thinking myself, that things had gone wrong when I was older as a teenager, but that wasn't
Yes.
true. The shaping of my mind, I would call that being transformed by the renewing of your mind. The shaping of my
100%.
mind went wrong of the things that I saw when I was much younger, like from 5 years old or to 10 years old. And the things that I saw, the divorces, the cheating on spouses,
The
un-
experiences. Yeah.
yep, uncles leaving aunts, aunts leaving uncles, and I had no faith in any relationship at all. I
Bless you,
praise God to
Tracy.
this day that I was incarcerated
Bless
and
you.
that he was beside me the whole way through. I
Absolutely.
always read that he would walk beside me through troubled times, and
Absolutely.
he did and still does to this day.
100%.
I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I hadn't have been incarcerated.
Exactly.
I
God
can't
works
imagine.
in very
I
odd
know. Yeah, that's what you needed, Tracy, obviously. And so
ways.
I can't imagine to think where I would be if I was still trying to run my life myself. Being in prison was the best thing that ever happened to me and my family. I hate the thoughts of families that I destroyed, relationships that I destroyed, minds that I tainted, but he gives me the strength and the courage to be able to go to them and apologize to them.
Oh, Tracy, God bless you,
God
darling.
bless you. Make amends where I could. Some accepted and some didn't. But he also gave me the strength that ones that didn't they didn't want to accept it, that it was okay if they didn't want to be a part
Yeah.
of my life. Then that was on them and not on me. Again, Rick and Elaine, thank you so much for all what you do, and I'll see you next week.
Oh, Tracy, how beautiful that is. Honestly, you have made my, oh, well, week, month, year. That comment is crazily amazing. And yeah, do you know, it goes back to finding God's fathership, if you like, to know what being obedient to a father is. I mean, this caused all of your downfall caused your lack of obedience to the word of God. My
Mhm.
downfall was the lack of obedience. I didn't even know I was being disobedient to God.
Mhm.
But when you, like you say, when the Holy Spirit comes to you, convicts you, you realize that once again, the only one that knows the difference between good and bad is God. And then you follow and then you are obedient because
Yes.
you know he's
Mhm.
got the best interest. And then that obedience doesn't become obedience, it becomes a joy, and then you realize through that joy where you went wrong. And I
Mhm.
think it's so wonderful that you went back. There's people in my life that I don't even know anymore that maybe 45, 50 years ago that I hurt. And I've asked God to forgive me. I've gone through everything in my mind. A person that I did something to, said something to, behaved in a way that I shouldn't have done. And I've asked God to forgive me. I've searched myself. I've searched
Yes.
myself, the innermost, and this is what you seem to have done, Tracy. And that is wonderful because the more you do that, the closer you get to God, the nearer you get to that relationship with God, which is beautiful. And
Mhm.
you just sound an amazing man. And I'm just
Yeah.
so happy for you, Tracy.
Yes, your
Absolutely.
honesty is wonderful. I
Well,
love that.
just sharing that, just to see how God has worked in your life and how wonderful that you feel this freedom, that you feel this childlike quality of being able to skip around now, whereas before you're chained without knowing God, and you're choosing yourself to find out what good and bad is, and it doesn't work.
No, it
It never
reminds me,
works.
you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Paul and Silas being in the inner part of the jail in the city of Philippi, fettered, by, these
Chained.
chains, these in the
Yeah,
stocks, as it
yeah.
says, and they begin to sing praises to God, and the
That's it.
earthquake comes and it destroys it. And then the jailer looks at it like, oh, I'm done. The Romans are
Yeah,
gonna come and get me now, so I'm gonna go ahead and kill myself. And Paul says, stop.
yeah.
We're not going anywhere. You know, so was Paul thankful to be in prison? Yes. Paul, every
Absolutely.
time he talks about being under house arrest or wherever he's in,
Absolutely.
I'm a prisoner for Jesus Christ. I'm thankful. So I would say that Tracy, you were the prisoner for Jesus Christ, and now you're here after all
Absolutely.
these years confessing and giving your testimony, and it's powerful. And I do want to share one little thing here, and please don't take this
Bless you,
as,
Tracy.
yeah, bless you, Tracy. Don't think this as a lot of times when I talk about these things, I feel like I'm boasting, and I'm not. I'm boasting in the Lord. So hear me out. Okay. So my cousin Travis, who I love very much, was a severe drug addict, and he was, I mean, severe. It was bad, shooting up with needles, the whole nine yards.
Oh, I hate that
And
word.
yeah, no, a couple years ago, he shot up with a bad needle. And what it did was it damaged the back of a valve in the back of his heart. And he ended up going in the hospital, and it was very serious that they thought he was going to die. And um, his mother, my aunt, called me, and some of my family called me and said, Rick, would you rush up to the hospital and talk to him? Because, he's not a believer. And, and I was like, okay, absolutely. So I immediately got in my car and I took off to Johnson City where he was, and I sat with him and spoke with him in the hospital bed. And he received the Lord Jesus Christ as a savior. He wanted forgiveness. He wanted to be one of the Lord's. That's what he wanted. And so I was thankful to be used as a conduit. But here's the
Yes,
amazing part.
absolutely. Yeah, channel.
The Holy Spirit got a hold of that young man, and he became sober. And when he left the hospital, he needed to have a special kind of surgery on his heart. But because he had been an addict and he had been arrested for it, he had to stay clean for 1 year before they would do it. This is
Yeah.
some rule, I guess they have at the hospital, or the law, or what, I don't know, but that's what happened to him. And so he moved in and lived with my grandmother, and he set about to correct every wrong that he'd ever done. And guess what? He didn't forget any of them.
No.
The Lord reminded him of all of them.
Exactly.
And he
Yes,
went,
exactly. And not
Travis
only that,
went,
you ask God to bring them to the surface so that you can ask for forgiveness.
yes. So what he did was he set out to meet or speak with every single person that he knew that he had done wrong or stolen from, or whatever he had done, and asked for forgiveness, and told people that, the Lord Jesus had saved him and that he was moving on. And sadly, he got to all of them, by the way, but sadly, he died of a heart attack because of that valve after 6 months. And
Wow.
but I was thankful that he had experienced those 6 months being one of the Lord's and correcting all of the things that the Lord would allow him to, and then to go to glory. I miss him. I miss him very much. But that was one of those deaths that I endured. But the Lord allowed me to be a small part as a conduit of his spirit to him. I got to see that. And then I got to watch God work in him. And that was such a blessing.
This is the thing. You see, if you make yourself excuse me, I get a problem with my throat. If you make yourself available and you ask God to place people in front of you that you can, because God, yes, God, like Jesus said, God, he can make sort of decide, but these stones cry out. But he doesn't. What he wants for you, his children, to be the channel, the conduit that is used to call his other children home. What an honor and what a blessing that is. And you'll be
Yes.
surprised at how many people actually have some sort of faith and belief. And it's just such a wonderful thing. See, for 6 months, he was just like a little child, just glorying and just basking in this wonderful Holy Spirit movement within him. It's
Yeah.
wonderful to see. And I don't ever want anyone to lose that. I want them
Yeah.
to be,
Suddenly he saw that the sky was blue, the grass was
yes,
green, and he could hear the birds. Something he wasn't
exactly.
paying attention to before because he was looking for his next fix. And that's something, he did speak about. So anyway,
Exactly.
let's get into our last
Yeah.
comment, and then we'll get into the study. We're already 20 minutes into this,
I
Elaine.
know. Sorry, everybody.
Don't
But your
be,
comments are so
I'm
good.
not sorry. This is what we want. This is a community we're talking about. All right. Deanna, not Deanna, Dina.
Dina.
Deana. Sorry, Dina. I had a friend named Deanna when I went to school, and it was spelled this way, but it's Dina. Dina, pronounced Dina.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dina.
Another happy time
That's
with
quite a
God.
football chant.
Yeah, yeah.
Dina. Dina.
And by the way, when she says football, she means soccer. All right, so all right.
I'm afraid you distorted the word. I mean, a sidewalk is a pavement.
All right, here we go. Another happy time with God and my brother and sister.
Oh. Oh, how
this is
wonderful.
Yeah, this is a perfect picture of valleys and mountaintops. Sacrifice of praise has always been one of those statements that made me scratch my head. I used to think, how is it sacrificing to praise a good God? Oh, but I have learned how difficult that can be. You learn and grow in a valley, and going through them is tough.
Yes.
It's easy to praise God in happy, dare I say, easy times, but oh, in that valley. That, in all caps, is the sacrifice of praise. Remaining thankful, faithful, and trusting through it. But oh, how beautiful is the mountaintop when you come through it.
Absolutely,
And
Dina.
Alan and I, Pastor Alan Thompson, Alan and I went through one of the hardest valleys some years ago. We had health and financial rugs jerked away in an instant. I did not understand why, and I was so afraid. I had no idea how we were going to pay bills, buy enough food. We had four babies under 10 at the time, and
Wow.
make it through the therapies and surgeries. But oh,
Absolutely.
but God, He pulled
Yeah.
us through it with all we needed and more. We were abundantly cared for. There were lessons that we both needed to be taught, and He delivered. He is so
Yes.
very good. Much love to you, my brother and sister. Much love to you, Dina. And I know what you're talking about. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Been
Yeah.
there, done that, got a second t-shirt. And now I'm
Yeah.
working on my third one. I know exactly what you're talking about. And you're so right.
Exactly. That's the thing, I think of David's word, although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no ill. And again, he talks about it being a shadow. It
Mhm.
sometimes it's not real. Yes, it is happening to us, but the reality is always God, isn't it?
Yes.
If we put our trust in God, it will only be a shadow. And I mean, I know that's the neat trick to be able to do that. Um, but it is. It is when and like you say, it's when you get to the top of the mountain that you realize it was all orchestrated. You were supposed to go through it. If only we could realize and keep our eyes on the prize, like Paul says, keep our eyes on the fact that we will reach that zenith when we're down
Hmm.
in the valley of the shadow of death, because it is a shadow. It's just a
Yes.
shadow. It's not real.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, let's get into this. Okay. So, where we left off last time, if you remember, Zophar in the second cycle of speeches gives his, you know, definition of what wickedness is and how it truly works in the world. Job has a mic drop moment and systematically goes through every single verse, destroying Zophar's reality. Zophar will no longer speak. Zophar is done. So Job has handled this friend who's not really very comforting and has a closed system that can't work.
Can you
Now,
just hang a minute, Rick? I'm my battery. I don't know whether something's not on or not switched on. Can you just hang on 1 minute? Sorry,
yeah,
everybody. Just talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
just talks to. I'm surprised that she's not turning her aircon off, but um, and I'll say this while I'm waiting on her to get back to get her plug and everything, that I did miss my time with Elaine last week because I always enjoy getting a chance, and we did speak for a little bit, and she got a chance to meet Karen Auger. It was very fun. Um, she's back, but what I discovered with my friends Elaine and Karen that they're even though they're on opposite sides of the world, they're very similar. So I think that they would be
Ooh.
fast friends. Yeah.
We
All
have
right.
entered
So
the twilight zone.
now one of the things I want to say about this Zophar mic drop moment that Job has with him is that you have to keep in mind that his other two friends, Eliphaz and Bildad, are still there. So they're all hearing this conversation among these four. So we know Eliphaz in his first cycle of speech, um, he's talking about a night vision that he had. He has a little bit of compassion. He's kind of long-winded. Um, he sounds gentle and experienced. I think he's the oldest and probably the wisest
Grey
of the
head.
gray-headed most likely. And then he says things like no innocent person really perishes. Like that's not true. And God disciplines people. Yes, that's true. Um, and then he says maybe you should seek him. Maybe Job, you should seek him. It's sort of a gentle entrance. And then when he gets to his second speech, he gets a little bit more sharper. He gets a little bit more defensive. And then he begins to treat Job's words that are coming out of his mouth as a proof of guilt. Okay. And so that's what Eliphaz is doing. And they're also listening to each other, like I said. So now, as we enter into the third cycle of speeches, Eliphaz again begins to speak in Job chapter 22. And I want you to listen closely because he's no longer talking about Job's words, he's going to do something far worse, in my opinion. And this is something that we all know within our faith. We have had it done to us. And so, if you would, Elaine, would you read chapter 22?
Aren't you getting fed up with my voice? I think yours is far superior.
No, I'm not fed up. Are you kidding me with your English accent? It's lovely.
Oh, bless your little heart.
I got that southern accent down here. It gets old after a while here.
Can a human be of advantage to God?
Is Eliphaz is a
Can
redneck.
even the wisest benefit him? Because that's quite good, isn't it?
It is quite good.
Anyway, back to like being sensible. Can a human be advantage to God? Can even the wisest benefit him? Does Shaddai gain if you are righteous? Does he profit if you make your ways blameless? Is he rebuking you because you fear him? Is this why he enters into judgment with you? Isn't it because your wickedness is great? Aren't your iniquities endless? For you kept your kinsman's goods as collateral for no reason. You stripped the poorly clothed of what clothing they had. You didn't give water to the weary to drink. You withheld food from the hungry, as a wealthy man and an owner of land, and as a man of rank who lives on it. You sent widows away empty-handed, and left the arms of orphans crushed. No wonder there are snares all around you and sudden terror overwhelms you, or darkness so that you can't see, and a flood of waters that cover you up. Isn't God in the heights of heaven, looking down even on the high stars? Yet you say, what does God know? Can he see through thick darkness to judge? The clouds veil him off so that I can't see. He just wanders around in heaven. Are you going to keep the old way, the one the wicked have trodden, the one snatched away before their time, whose foundations a flood swept away? They said to God, leave us alone. When can Shaddai do to us? Yet he himself had filled their homes with good things. But the advice of the wicked is far away from me. The righteous saw this and rejoiced. The innocent laughed at them to scorn. Indeed, our substance has not been not cut off. That's a bit strange. But the fire has consumed their wealth. Learn to be at peace with God. In this way, good will come back to you. Please receive instruction from his mouth and take his words to heart. If you return to Shaddai, you will be built up. If you drive wickedness far away from your tents, if you lay your treasures down in the dust and the gold of Ophir among the rocks in the Vardis, and let Shaddai be your treasure and your sparkling silver, then Shaddai will be your delight. You will lift up your face to God. You will entreat him, and he will hear you, and you will pay what you vowed. What you decide to do will succeed. The light will shine on your path. When someone is brought down, you will say, it was pride, because God gives and saves the humble. He delivers even the unclean. So, if your hands are clean, you will be delivered. That's a bit funny, that one. That verse 20 is a bit odd.
Yeah, that not cut off. Yeah, that was kind of weird sounding.
Well, it says, indeed, our substance has not been not cut off.
Yeah, not been not cut off.
Yes.
It's a double negative.
It is a double negative, yeah.
Yeah. Eliphaz, if you didn't pick up on it, Eliphaz didn't just become harsh. Eliphaz actually begins to accuse him of some certain things very early on in this chapter. If you would, Elaine, again, I think the specific accusations begin in verse 6, and I want you to hear what he says. He's exploiting the poor, stripping the naked, withholding water, cursing widows, crushing the fatherless. Would you read that again, 6 through 9? Listen closely, guys. And also, while you listen closely, I want you to think about the way somebody from Old Covenant Israel, who are under the Sinai Covenant, under the law, think about what they would think about these charges that Eliphaz is bringing to Job.
Yeah. For you kept your kinsman's goods as collateral for no reason. You stripped the poorly clothed of what clothing they had. You didn't give water to the weary to drink. You withheld food from the hungry. As a wealthy man, an owner of land, and as a man of rank who lives on it, you sent widows away empty-handed and left the arms of the orphans crushed.
All right. Now, in the old covenant, there are specific laws that deal with how to treat the poor, how to treat the naked, how to treat the hungry, what you should do with the thirsty, also how you are to treat widows and orphans. Okay. That happens to be something that I'm actually working on for Berean, and it's something that I shared with the group back in Fort Worth, which is in regard to a widow, a particular widow who gave two mites. And I'm going to get into that at that study, so I'm not going to bother with it here. But I wanted to point out that whenever God sends a prophet in the Old Covenant to the nation of Israel or to the kingdom, let's say the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah, when he does, a lot of times you'll hear these charges come up, these charges about exploiting the poor, about not executing judgment for the fatherless, for the widow, or for the stranger. And he
The
would tell
orphan.
them, the orphan, yeah, or to think to remember that you were a stranger in a strange land in Egypt and I came to you, right? So, but here's what's weird. All that we've read in Job, God said that Job was a righteous and upright man. If we know that to be true, and we also know that he was a priest for his family and he was offering sacrifices and he was concerned about the things that his children might think in their heart, yet God allows Satan to take those children and all of his wealth and all of those things away as if it was a judgment. But we know that he didn't commit those things because God said he was righteous and upright. What that means is that Eliphaz is falsely accusing him. So we don't know. How could we know what Job did? It never tells us. But now we're hearing Eliphaz say, this is something that you did. So I don't know if this is a false accusation or if perhaps maybe Job's children were operating in this fashion or what. I don't know.
Well, again, maybe his understanding is being sort of distorted here, because the fact that he's gone to Job in the first place to comfort him with the other two and the younger lad as well, you've got to turn around and say, well, he must have known him. He must have had a great understanding of who Job was, what he had, what he possessed, what he did, and to turn around and say something like this, he's actually taking away from Job what Job has done, because he's trying to what's the word I'm looking for? He's trying to give a reason then for the calamity that has befallen Job. So he's, instead of looking at what Job was and what Job had and what he did, he's looking at the consequence. So therefore, he's looking at the consequence as the judgment. So therefore, he's making judgments on the consequence. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, of course he is.
Because he's not looking at it in any other way. He's not going, well, actually, you're a really lovely man, and I don't understand it either, Job.
Right.
He's not saying that. So he's making his assessment and judgment based on what he sees. And he just sees a man that had everything and got nothing. So when you had something, you must have been doing something wrong to get in this position. That's what he's reasoning.
Right. Oh, absolutely. 1,000,000%. I think that that's exactly what's happening. I don't know if maybe his children had done something on behalf of Job that could have made some of those things look like that. I don't know. Maybe they did.
I just think that they're assessing that through seeing the situation.
And I think you can. I'm speculating, Elaine. I'm not saying that that's actually what happened. I'm saying perhaps maybe that's why Eliphaz is thinking that way. That's all I'm saying. But you're right.
Yeah, I do
In this
understand.
context, it's a false accusation.
It is, but based on what he's already said before that, he's got a very narrow view of God. It's to do this, don't do that. This happens. If you do this, this will happen. So he's not sitting. That's what I'm saying. We're thinking as thinking people because he's in a framework there. He's thinking inside this framework, and this framework doesn't allow him to go outside and think that there could be anything other than what his framework is saying. So because his framework isn't sort of like jiving, if you like, with what he's seeing, he has to then enter his framework and say, well, you must have done something, because my framework says that this situation only happens to people that have been ABC. And so you must have been ABC, even though I thought you were a good man. You can't have been, because this would have happened to you. So therefore, his framework is like this. God is in a box. His framework is like that. That's so this is what I think he's viewing it from. He's only viewing it from the framework that he has, which is very narrow. And that's why I think he's now getting more and more personal because he's trying to ascertain why, rather than Job. Now we're going to see as we go on, Rick, aren't we, that Job is going to start expanding that box.
Yes, he is going to expand that box. So let me see if I can hone in on this real quick. So when I was speculating about his children, the reason I was saying that is because here's what we know from the story. All of his children are dead. All of his children are dead. There's a possibility that those children could have done something. Possible. We don't know. This is all speculative, okay? But for Eliphaz and Bildad and for Zophar, who are in this same ancient world with them, they could have heard of things that the children could have done to them because they were always out there living it up, partying on their, on their father's wealth. We don't know. But they, in their system, if those people went to their death, there's a reason for that. It's our closed-in system framework that we're thinking from. So obviously, and then that would come under the authority of the father, which is Job. Job would be the father of them. And so therefore he could be accused
or the patriarch of the family.
Right. But regardless of that, we don't know if that happened. But because Eliphaz says this way with almost like, you did this, it made me think, I wonder if this was something that maybe his children had have done. And without Job knowing it or whatever, and these people are pointing it out, it doesn't matter because Job didn't do it. And so, but I wanted to read something from Jeremiah chapter 7 real quick, okay? This is only one example. You can find this in Isaiah chapter 10, you can find it in Malachi, you can find it in Ezekiel, you can find it in Daniel. This is very similar language, but I want you to listen to Jeremiah chapter 7. I'm starting in verse 1, and I'm reading it from the ESV. The word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord, stand in the gate of the Lord's house. He's talking about the temple, and proclaim there this word and say, hear the word of the Lord, all you men of Judah who enter these gates to worship the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, amend your ways and your deeds, and I will let you dwell in this place. Do not trust in these deceptive words. This is the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord. For if you truly amend your ways and your deeds, now listen closely. If you truly execute justice one with another, if you do not oppress the sojourner, the fatherless, or the widow, or shed innocent blood in this place, and if you do not go after other gods to your own harm, then I will let you dwell in this place, in the land that I gave of old to your fathers forever. Behold, you trust in deceptive words to no avail. Will you steal, murder, commit adultery, swear falsely, make offerings to Baal, and go after other gods that you have not known, and then come and stand before me in this house, which is called by my name, and say, we are delivered, only to go on doing all these abominations? Has this house, which is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, I myself have seen it, declares the Lord. All right, so I'll stop there. I wanted to bring up that list of things that God sends to Jeremiah to tell these people. These are things that are covenant curses if they do not do these things. So in the law of Moses, they understand what they're supposed to do. You can find this in Exodus chapter 22. He gives them this list of things about what you're supposed to do with the widows and the orphans and the strangers in your land, and not following after other gods and things like that. We know this from the Ten Commandments, for example. So the only reason I'm saying this is because Bildad, and he keeps using the name Shaddai. This is the name of God prior to him giving the name to Moses later in Exodus chapter 6. So he's operating in that patriarchal world. He's calling him Shaddai, and he's saying, you've done this. This is the evidence. So in other words, Eliphaz has shifted from just talking about Job's mouth and the words that he's saying to now saying there are real tangible events that put you here.
But are there real? See, the thing is, Rick, are there?
No, they're not real.
Exactly. This is the thing. This is what he's, in his worldview, in what he sees, which is what is before his own eyes. I think he's deducing this. I don't think he's saying that this is what I saw you do. I'm thinking that because you have ended up in this situation, this is what you must have done.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. It is a false accusation.
Well, we know that because we know back in chapter 1 and 2 that we know that God considers him to be a righteous man.
But my point is, if you look at God's law, if you think about God's law, think about what Jeremiah just said to the kingdom of Judah. you know as well as I do that they didn't listen to Jeremiah and they kept doing what they were doing, and
Yeah.
God obliterated them with
Yeah.
by Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, but so what Eliphaz has done is Eliphaz has looked at the whole of Job's life and where he is right now, and
Yeah.
he has deduced you have broken those things with
That's exactly.
Shaddai.
That's right. That's what he's deduced. But
That's
it's wrong.
right,
It's false.
and he
It's,
is
it's a false
false.
deduction.
It is a false deduction.
Exactly. And not only that, we're in the courtroom situation where you've got someone that's in the box, in the dock, and they're giving false evidence.
Yes, and guess what? This is what I love about this. I love this, okay? If you remember when he talked when Job talks to Zophar, you remember how he went systematically verse by verse and destroyed his argument and shut him down? Watch this and watch chapter 23. Watch what Job does to Eliphaz. This is so wild.
What do you want shall I read it?
I would like for you to read chapter 23.
Oh my gosh, you're not bored with it yet.
We're not bored with you.
Oh, bless. Thank you. Today, too, my complaint is bitter. My hand is weighed down because of my groaning. I wish I knew where I could find him. Then I would go to where he is. I would state my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would know his answering words and grasp what he would tell me. Would he browbeat me with his great power? No, he would pay attention to me. There an upright person could reason with him. Thus I might be forever acquitted by my judge. If I head east, he isn't there. If I head west, I don't detect him. If I turn north, I don't spot him. In the south, he is veiled, and I still don't see him. Yet he knows the way I take. When he has tested me, I will come out like gold. My feet have stayed in his footsteps. I keep to his ways without turning aside. I don't withdraw from his lips' command. I treasure his words more than my daily food. But he has no equal, so who can change him? What he desires, he does. He will accomplish what is decreed for me, and he has many plans like this. This is why I'm terrified of him. The more I think about it, the more afraid I am. God has undermined my courage. Shaddai frightens me. Yet I am not cut off by his darkness. He has protected me from the deepest gloom. What a realization's coming.
Guys, listen. Listen. I want you to notice something. He didn't even address Eliphaz.
No.
He didn't even address him. So now, remember, he destroys Zophar because Zophar is talking about wickedness. And what happens? He wasn't really directly accusing Job, but he was saying all of the list of things that happened to wickedness in their reality. And Job says, wrong, that's not reality. Here's reality, and you
That's
know it.
right.
So do all of our friends. So shut up, you little whippersnapper. And the
Exactly.
end of Zophar. And so Eliphaz, the more eloquent man who's a little bit more experienced, begins to level false accusation against Job and saying that he did things. Job didn't say a word about it. He didn't even defend. He didn't defend himself at all.
No.
And here's why. Such a pivotal moment in this book. Job, remember when Eliphaz said, "Can God not see you because you're so deep in the dark?" That's the only thing that Job really responds to. He's actually talking about how, no, God can see me, but I can't see him.
Exactly.
I'm going to the east and the west and the north. I can't see him, but I know that he sees me.
Exactly.
And this is what I want. He is terrifying me because he does have this power. He is so immense. But
I love the but, you.
don't you? I do too. But I will go to him. He's already cried out in the past about needing that advocate, needing that person to stand in his stead as a witness, as somebody that God is just. So therefore, even if I die in this death, but he mentions something about once I go through this, I will be as pure gold.
Yes.
Does that sound familiar? Doesn't it sound familiar?
Refinement in the fire.
If you think about, if you listen to what God says, like during Isaiah's time, whenever Isaiah is coming out against the kingdom of Israel and saying, you guys are doing all of that list of things against oppressing the fatherless and the widows, the strangers, and you're doing these things with gods or whatever. And he tells them, circumcise the foreskin of your heart and amend your ways.
Yeah.
And then he says, your he says basically, I'm going to get the dross. I'm going to get the
Abs-
dross out of you, and I'm going to make you righteous in the end. Like I'm going to squeeze you. And Assyria is the rod of my anger, and I'm going to send them. They're the staff of my indignation. I'm going to do. I think
Yep.
you can find that in Isaiah chapter 10. If you want, go double check me. But he says that, and he points out that whenever you are a mess, God will put you and refine you and squeeze you and get, like you said, the press of the oil from Gethsemane.
You will go to Gethsemane.
Yeah, and by the way, Christ had no sin, but God was leading him into this new reality,
Yeah. I
which
think
is
that we all need to do that. We all need to do, when we go under the thing, we need to say we're in Gethsemane now.
yeah, yeah.
We're in Gethsemane. We're
We're in
being pressed.
Gethsemane.
That
Yes,
goodness is coming out. That oil, that preciousness is starting to be squeezed out. Yeah.
absolutely. And that's what
Yeah.
I think is so amazing in this third cycle of speech, because Job shuts Zophar down in speech two so meticulously and brilliantly. And then whenever Eliphaz comes right out and says, "You did this to the poor, you did this to he's giving examples of the things that he did. Job goes and looks
Exactly.
up
Yep.
and he starts talking about Shaddai and his
Yep.
relationship. He loves Shaddai. He loves him, y'all. He loves him and he knows that he is just and true and righteous and good and
And
holy.
the thing is about it, what you start, this is a pivotal chapter, this 123.
It is
This
pivotal.
where Job actually starts to turn to God now. He recognizes that he can address God, whereas before he's done an awful lot of things that he doesn't want to upset God. He's been external, if you like. A
Right.
lot of his relationship with God has been external.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can start to see in these chapters, the 23 and 24, you can start to see the difference now. It's like Job's walls of understanding God, the box he placed him in, the container, is starting to broaden, to get wider. And then you start to see the other comforters, their boxes starting to get narrower and narrower and narrower. So the gulf between the two of them is getting wider and wider. And
Yes.
these are so pivotal. And this is what happens. The more you go to God, the more you share with God, the more of a relationship that you get with, the more real he is. You start to expand those walls. So those walls don't pin you in. You don't say, well, God is this, God is that, God is. What you start to see is a God that you can go to, that you can cry to, that you can rejoice with, you can praise, but you can be low with, that you can sort of share all those things. And this is that moment when Job is recognizing for the first time through this suffering, which is like Tracy was saying, through that suffering, that is when God entered. But that is when those walls of incarceration spiritually started to expand for Tracy.
Yeah.
It couldn't contain him.
No.
And this is what's happening here in 23 and 24. You're starting to see a difference now, a parting of the ways. The two are going off in different directions. One box and container of God is getting smaller and more, what's the word?
Closed.
More self-righteous, more.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
More. What's the word I'm looking for? What were the Pharisees? More.
I mean, self-righteous is good. I mean, that's
It
right.
is, but there's another word. More.
Holier than thou.
Yeah, but it was getting limited. It was limiting God. It was limiting his ability, his power, his love, his kindness, his compassion. They were taking away something greater from God and crushing him. Where here we see with Job, now he's not taking that power away from God. He's actually expanding it from all that he understood before, which is wonderful. And like you said, I go to the east, I go to the west, I go to the north, I go to the south. But he says, but I know he's there. And this is, you just think, hurrah! You just think to yourself, oh, Joe, my brother, you're getting it. How wonderful that you're getting this relationship with God through the extreme suffering. And it's wonderful. Again, it's like all these people that we've spoken to, our brothers and sisters that have shared their stories. Through those stories, through those crushings, through those Gethsemane moments, they are far, the box and the container is getting sort of less and less and less. The walls are getting pushed away because of the relationship and the things that you've gone through. You've endured them. You've come out the other side. Although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, it's only a shadow. It's not real. I will come out the other side. The only reality is God.
The Lord is our portion. And that's really
and more.
Absolutely. And so although these men are saying things that are true, they're not using the theology correctly. And
No.
so this has definitely been something we've learned over and over and over. But this is such a pivotal chapter because it closes out Eliphaz's cycle of speech. And so when we get into the next chapters next week, and I
Yeah.
think we'll probably, if you would read, not you right now, but in the future, guys, read chapter 24 through 27, because I think that we're going to go through the final speech cycle of Bildad and Job. And that's when Job's going to go into a long discussion, and I'm very excited to see, um, where we're going, but literally what's getting ready to take place with Bildad is the collapse.
Yeah.
It's the collapse of the cycle. Like it collapses into nothingness and it leaves Job in that refined position.
Yeah.
And
It's
then he starts to explore and keep going forward.
exactly
And then here
expanding
comes this
outwards.
young man on the scene.
Exactly. And it's like we were saying yesterday when we was talking. It starts off with one thing in the Garden of Eden, then it goes from another thing, then another thing, and then in Revelation you get to the point where you see God, and it says, "And I looked for a temple, but there wasn't no temple." But it's talking about the naos, and it says
Yes.
there was no naos, for God Himself is the naos. He's
Yep.
the essence of everything. There's nothing there to close Him in anymore. There's no tent. There's no tabernacle. There's nothing. There's no body. There's nothing. He just is, and it just. And this is the thing: the more that we go through, our dear brothers and sisters that shared the more that we go through, the more refined, and though we should treasure those Gethsemane moments, because we are able to give out what we have simply because we've been there, we've
Yes.
suffered them, and we've got closer to God through it. We've endured it, and the thing is, like He says, He doesn't take away these things, but He's there with us all the way through it, giving us the way out. And
Right.
that to me is amazing, because He wants us to go through these things, but there's always that way out for us to be able to endure that which He's placed us in, so that we can be an encouragement in that situation to somebody else.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I get so
That's right.
excited. I know I probably
Well,
sound,
there's
but I'm so sorry.
all right, so I'm actually going to spring a surprise on you.
Ooh,
I'm going to spring a surprise on you, okay?
go on.
All right. So far, when we get to chapter 23, he's doing that very thing. And I said that he hadn't really expressed himself to Eliphaz.
No,
Well, he's actually not done talking.
no,
Okay. He's not done talking.
no, he's not.
He's not. He's actually going to speak more in chapter 24. Okay. So if you would, now I'm going to. So he's not addressing Eliphaz. I wanted to point this out. He's not addressing Eliphaz. He is, however, going to address those things about the poor and the needy and stuff. All right. So if you would, Elaine, I do want you to read chapter 24.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. I want you to read chapter 24. And then we're going to close this out, because when we get into the next, guys, read 24 through 27, if you would. We'll just close out the study after you read chapter 24. And then, yeah, just go with 24 if you don't mind.
Right.
Because he's
Why
still speaking, by the way. He's still
Sorry?
speaking. He wasn't done talking.
Judge,
He
still
was
speaking.
That's
Yeah, so
right.
he's finished there. He has protected me from the deepest gloom. Why are times not kept by Shaddai? Why do those who know Him not see His days? There are those who move boundary markers. They carry off flocks and pasture them. They drive away the orphan's donkey. As collateral, they seize the widow's ox. They push the needy out of the way. The poor of the land are forced into hiding. Like wild donkeys in the wilderness, they have to go out and scavenge food, hoping that the desert will provide food for their children. They must reap in fields that are not their own and gather late grapes in the vineyards of the wicked. They pass the night without clothing, naked, uncovered in the cold, wet with mountain rain, and hugging the rock for lack of shelter. There are those who pluck orphans from the breast, and those who take the clothes from the poor in pledge, so that they go about stripped, unclothed. They go hungry as they carry sheaves of grain. Between these men's rows of olives, they make oil. Treading their winepress, they suffer thirst. Men are groaning in the city. The mortally wounded are crying for help, yet God finds nothing amiss. There are those who rebel against the light. They don't know its ways or stay in its paths. The murderer rises with the light to kill the poor and the needy. while at night he is like a thief. The eye of the adulterer, too, waits for twilight. He thinks, no eye will see me, but to be sure he covers his face. When it's dark, they break into houses. In the daytime, they stay out of the sight. None of them know the light. For all of them, deep darkness is like morning. For the terrors of deep darkness are familiar to them. May they be scum on the surface of the water. May their share of land be cursed. May no one turn on their way of the vineyard. May drought and heat steal away their snow water and Sheol those who have sinned. May the womb forget them. May worms find them sweet. May they no longer be remembered. Thus may iniquity be snapped like a stick. They devour childless women and give no help to widows. Yet God keeps pulling the mighty along. They get up even when not trusting their own lives. However, even if God lets them rest in safety, his eyes are on their ways. They are exalted for a little while, and then they are gone. Brought low, they are gathered in like all other, shriveled up like ears of grain. And even if it isn't so now, still no one can prove me a liar and show that my words are worthless. I'm so
right.
sorry. I do have problems with my throat. So if I get a bit, but yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, this is the argument back, isn't it? This is sort of,
So he doesn't acknowledge Eliphaz
no.
right out of the gate when he starts, okay? But what he does is he then begins to fully describe reality. He's fully describing reality. And at the end of this speech that he did, and we're going to get into it next week, okay? Sorry for the little misdirection play there, but I just wanted you guys to know. What he does in chapter 24, and at the end of it, he says, prove me a liar. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask all of you to do a little bit of homework. Prove him a liar. Can you do it? Can you prove that Job is wrong? I'm just really curious. Go through it systematically and tell me about your reality that you live in right now, in the world in which you live, the things that you think and what people say to you and what people think, the things you watch on television or hear on the radio, the things that you watch on social media. Let's get real for a minute. Yeah. Let's take chapter 24 and let's put Job to the test. Let's see if everything that he said there, if it's right, if he's a liar, or if it's true. Because he said something in there about God that is very interesting. And so I'm just going to leave it at that. The thing he says about God in this, tell me if he's a liar, and let's see if we can prove him wrong. And that's how I want to close it.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful way to end it. It's all intriguing. It's all sort of, let's go further.
So now we're going to get into even more of the nitty gritty here, because Bildad's coming up in chapter 25. Okay. Bildad's coming up in chapter 25. And I want you to imagine, read chapter 24 again, or listen to Elaine read it to you again, or read it yourself.
Oh, listen please closely. No, just read it yourself.
Every time, look at everything that Job said. See if you can prove him a liar. See if it's possible that he's wrong, and see what it could be if there is something. And then I want you to imagine Bildad beginning to talk to him after all that. After hearing every bit of this, I want you to think about Bildad. Okay? This is, folks, I want you to understand, I am beginning to believe that this was written after Solomon. I think that this was written after Solomon during the splitting of the kingdom.
Rehoboam, Jeroboam.
I'm thinking that as the splitting of the kingdom is beginning to happen, I'm thinking that this wisdom literature is written around. It could have even been Solomon. He's putting it back into the patriarchal period prior to the giving of the name Yahweh, the covenant God. They're calling him Shaddai, which is what they all knew him by. And he's showing you some very distinct things in regard to this man and what he believes about God, Shaddai, who is Yahweh. Okay. This is such a critical part of the book. I had no idea when I was studying that this was part of this. I never knew this about. I didn't know this about God, about Job. I didn't know it about the Bible. I didn't know. I skipped over this so many times. I don't know why, but he slowed me down because of my situation.
Again, I think this is timely simply because I think the way that the world is, the way that the church is, all this sort of the turmoil, infighting, and things that they are allowing into the church, the things that are happening outside the church, happening sort of politically and stuff like that. These things are rushing upon us daily, and we don't know where it's going. And like I say, this is quite timely, to be honest with you. For me, I find it very, it just cements that everything that God says is right. And it is about being obedient to him. He never abandons you. He's
Right.
never not beside you. He's always there. You might not see him clearly, but it's not because
Mhm.
he's left you. It's because your eyes are a bit sort of like, glazed at that particular time. He's there right with you all the time. And I did actually write next to that part where he says about, he says in verse, it says, I wish I knew where I could find him. Then I would go to where he was. And I've written, he's right there.
Yeah, he's there
He's
at all
right
time.
there. You
That's
know,
what a lot of times in our New Testament churches today will say, are you lost? Or we'll sing Amazing Grace. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Yes, you didn't find him, he found you. That's exactly what happened. And so it's really powerful. But I hope you guys understand that 23 sets up 24. 22 sets up 23.
yeah,
21 sets up 22.
yeah.
He this
You
whoever
can see
wrote
this
this
slow transition movement, can't you? It's
whoever
very
set up
smooth.
whoever wrote this book, Holy Spirit,
Yeah,
God breathed,
yeah.
begins to
100%. Well,
he's building,
I
yeah.
forget what verse it's in. He says, I wish these words could be written down. And I just thought, well, yes, Job, they have been.
Yes.
I
And
forget
yeah,
where it is.
it's earlier in. We talked about that. How he
Did
had said
we?
we did. We actually talked about, yeah, we talked about that, how we said he had wished that the words could be written down. And I said, well, guess what, Job? They were, and we're still reading it
Yeah.
today. Um, so read chapter 24, if you
So
don't
we got to
mind.
read 24, 25, 26, and 27, 4 chapters.
We're going to go through what we're going to do. I want to show you how 23 sets up 24. Okay. And the fact that they had a chapter break, there wasn't a chapter break before, but I know why they chapter break it there. He's not really addressing Eliphaz. He's addressing God, and he's asking questions about God, even though, because he doesn't believe that he can actually stand before him and speak to him. He needs an advocate. That's where his brain's at. But he's pushing
Well, it's that
harder.
priestly. It's that priestly aspect. I've got to have something to sort of like mediates between this and that. I've got to have a sacrifice. I've got to have an altar. I've got to have it's something like that. But he's starting to realize actually you don't need any of that. Like Christ said, it's mercy I want, not sacrifice.
Right, right. So so when Job gets into chapter 24, he's kind of addressing what Eliphaz was falsely accusing him of, but he's not addressing those particular things. He's actually he's regurgitating this reality that he has, that we all have, and he's saying it out loud to where his accusers now can hear it. But it's really like a cry out to God, and he says something about God in that chapter, and it just we'll stop there. Let's leave a cliffhanger for you. I want you to do it, see if you can prove him wrong. And then when he talks about God, in particular in chapter 24, tell me what you think it means. If you guys are willing to put it in the comments, or if you have any questions, whatever, put them there for us. All of you who are in Texas with me, and I said, make some comments. I hope you'll jump in here. You don't have to be on
Please,
time. You can
please
comment.
jump in because, like I say, it's not only jump, but it's for me here to get
Yeah.
to know you as well. So
Yes.
I like to, because I've not met you, I've not seen you.
You have actually.
Well,
You
I've
met
seen
all
it.
of them.
Yes, I've seen a picture. But what I'm saying is, there's more people maybe that are watching. That it's such an encouragement to me because I have no church to go to. My
Yeah.
husband isn't a Christian. I have no family here in Spain. I am
Right.
literally with God 24 hours a day. So to hear comments like I do is such an encouragement to me. Honestly, I get off this and I just go, Lord, I'm just so excited. I'm like a little child, really. I mean, I'm just like the oldest child in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But it's exciting.
Yes.
It's like Christ said, it bubbles up inside of you. Like I've used the illustration before. You open a flat bottle of fizz, it goes, but you open one that's a new, it goes, shh, and it's
Yes.
alive. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
word of God. It's alive. It has to produce something, has to do something. It has to live. And I think that's the thing. When we speak about the word of God, I want it to live. I want it to really impact people with their spirit. So it bubbles up in them and they feel alive because of it. Because I certainly feel alive when I hear those comments.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that's it for this week.
It
Now
is.
again, sorry for my little misdirection ploy, but I wanted to show,
Yeah, my throat.
I said 22, 23, and I wanted you to read them, and then when you get to 23, I just really wanted everybody to notice that Job is actually not addressing Eliphaz. He's actually and he's not waxing poetic. He's getting down to the nitty gritty, but
But
he had
do you
just
know what?
received some
Do you know what, Rick?
brutality.
Yeah, exactly. But do you know what? When I start going like that, I might not be addressing you anymore.
Yeah. When
might
you
just
turn your
run
head like,
past
yeah,
you.
not talking to you. All right, well, guys, we hope you'll join us next week. Please, again, leave
Yes.
all your comments. We love you
Yes,
guys very
please.
much. And Elaine, I hope you have a beautiful day today.
And you too, darling. And I shall speak to you, well, whenever.
Whenever. We're on
Whenever.
WhatsApp together.
Who can tell?
All
We
right,
don't think
guys.
anything, do we?
Y'all come back now. You hear?
Y'all come back now. You hear? Love y'all.
Love y'all
y'all
very much.
with all my heart.
With all my heart. God bless you guys. Mwah.
Ta-ta.
It's done. Woo!